Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down.
It has been long overdue to expose the truth that the Democrats and Republicans are sucking the life out of America's liberty and usurping our rights at every turn. Now is the time to seize our civil liberties and take back our individual rights. Here on Southern Liberty, we will expose it all. With his musket on his back, the Declaration of Independence in one hand, and the Constitution in the other, here's your host, Roderick Threets.
Good evening. Welcome to the end of the weekend, Southern Liberty. Welcome to the end of the weekend, South Florida, and across the nation, across the world in some regards. We're going to have a little action-packed hour. You know how we do on Chasing Life, Liberty, and Monarchy. We just keep it real at all times. I appreciate y'all spending some time with us this evening. Those of y'all in Citrus County, Florida, on down south, down to Monroe County. I appreciate all y'all turning into the airways. And those of you that listen to the internet through your cars or in your little devices in your house, I appreciate y'all too. Those of y'all in Southeast Georgia. Y'all know I'm talking about from Waycross, the Brunswick, the Val Diggity, all y'all in that area down there. I appreciate y'all. And those of y'all in the state of Utah, you know, first love, one love always. You know, you're my roots. So I appreciate everybody else and all my folks internationally that listen across the internet. I thank y'all too. Because, you know, y'all always like to chime in with some good stuff. So I appreciate y'all. This evening, we're going to get into something I've talked about before here on this show. But it's one of the things that's highly ignored because it seems like a bunch of people always seems to participate in this and don't care about the after effects. You know, they take, I guess, the cliche saying, facts over feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings, to a whole nother level, to a point where they browbeat you with some fake facts, have you thinking sideways and have you do things, to yourself that you shouldn't be doing, anywhere from, self-medicating to self-mutilation to even death. Right. And no one's ever held to account for it. But this evening, we're going to revisit that conversation. You know, we had about a few months back, Southern Liberty, and where we're going to come up with some more solutions. And the guest I have on this evening is a dear friend of mine. I met her a little while back. Long story short, she's good, peeps. She does the damn thing. She backs up what she says and she speaks what she means. And regardless, right? And she's just like us, liberty defenders. Regardless of the adversity that's thrown in your face, we're going to stand tall on that foundation of liberty because there's no storm that can weather away the foundation of liberty. You can call Hurricane Dora, Hurricane Andrew, you can call Ian, Ivan, all those hurricanes. Ain't no hurricane, no cyclone, no tornado can destroy the foundation of liberty. Not even these hating ass lefties. Right? Because these hating ass lefties, as y'all know, need that foundation of liberty to even be leftist. So they don't want to completely destroy it. They just want to distort what that liberty is. But see, we don't allow that around here. That right, liberty defenders? We don't allow that around here. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get on into this. Let me go ahead and introduce my lovely guest from somewhere in the United States of America. Miss Jess Senior, good evening and welcome to Chasing Life, Liberty, and Monarchy. How you doing?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
I like that intro. Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're quite welcome. So if you wouldn't mind, real quick, tell the Southern Liberty audience, Liberty Defending audience, who you are, what you do, how you be, and where you at.
Sure, really quick. My name is Jess. I don't really want to give out too much personal information due to the simple fact on why I'm doing this bill to begin with. I am an Army veteran, and I believe wholeheartedly in my Constitution first and foremost before we decide on any form of political aspect. And I think that's pretty much everything that entails me as far as my belief systems. is concerned.
Right.
I my country, I love what it stands for. I believe that we're 1 in a million, and I'm not willing to give that up. And I'm here to fight the good fight.
And ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? I appreciate you taking time out of your evening to come through this evening, and we would talk about something that shouldn't even be controversial.
No.
But
No.
here we are having a conversation about accountability for this action.
Yep.
Right? It should be a no-brainer. Right? When it comes to cyberbullying, it should be a no-brainer, right? On the account, who's accountable or who's the accountable parties, because at baseline, right? Here's the thing, right? And all my liberty defenders, you guys understand this 100%. A person that is a cyberbully is literally violating the non-aggression axiom. That in itself should be punished, right? But too many people take, it's only words. But when your words matter. And when your words are being transferred into a space that is volatile and used, right, as a weapon, you have violated non-aggression axiom. You should be held accountable to that.
Yep.
Now, Miss Jess, tell us about, before we even get to the main subject, let's hear your opinion on the cyberbullying and bit, et cetera, et cetera. We're kind of going to lead to where we're going to get to, because I think the folks will appreciate the work you're putting in.
Okay, so what specifically about cyberbullying did you want me to?
Just your opinion on it, whole 9 yards.
Well, here, because I do have a lot of notes on this, and I want to make sure that I get everything out specifically about this. I feel like the internet within itself was brought into existence more so where we weren't ready for social media to roll out at all. We weren't ready. We didn't have the capacity of holding people accountable. And thus far, our internet, social media providers thrive off of the traffic that comes in due to the cyberbullying, the cyber stalking, etc. And on top of it, it also breeds a cesspool of this by allowing people to remain anonymous. Now, as a human, one thing that I've noticed is that we've become attached or detached due to social media, detached from our families because we're always looking at our phones, but also detached in an emotional way that humans typically connect. For instance, let's say I go to the gas station and I've got this old lady taking her good old sweet time trying to get in the door, and I huff and puff at her. She turns around and gives me a look like, wow, you seriously hurt my feelings. I've got some osteoporosis going on. I'm in serious pain with arthritis, and you're going to huff and puff at me, young lady. Now, if I'm not a psychopath, I'm going to immediately take in that feeling like, wow, I just hurt this person. And now I'm going to think in the future, next time I get stuck behind some old lady getting through a door in the real world, I'm not going to huff and puff at her because I didn't like the way that it made me feel, knowing full well that I hurt her.
Right.
Now,
it's the lack of empathy. Basically, it's
exactly.
the lack of empathy. Yeah.
But when you're in the internet, you don't get to see that reaction. You don't get to see what you did to that person. You don't get to see the look on their face. You don't get to see them crying. Or if you terrorize them, you don't get to see them staying up all night, making sure that nobody's driving past their house. You don't get to see them not eating. You don't get to see them keeping their kids safe because they're terrified due to you violating them because you had a difference of opinion 9 times out of 10. You don't get to see that. Yep. You immediately get your gratification by sending off those words, putting out those threats, and there is no consequence. You know there's no consequence because the internet is out there specifically to let you remain anonymous. That don't fly in the real world.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. In the real world, you're going to get a punch in your nose, in your face, or a shoe upside your head, or a chancla thrown at you, or something, right? Because it's that accountability piece when you're not as empathetic. Now, and there's a lot that goes into that. We're not going to get into that because it'll derail us into a whole nother realm of stuff. Go ahead.
A lot to talk about.
Oh, I know. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. No, I was just saying, it's just the more or less too is that we live in a society too where virtually we're not held accountable for things that we're held accountable in the physical world. If you harass me on the phone, I tell you, knock it off. You don't knock it off, I go call my police. I go call and I make a report and say, hey, this person is violating my natural law to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I want it to stop because I have a right to live, breathe, and eat in peace as well. So what gives him the right to mess with me? And what happens is now there's a paper trail. Now there's misdemeanors. Now there's felonies. And now this person's held accountable. That does not happen.
No.
And people know full well. So now people are taking this terrorization to the internet with their mental health problems. And it's a cesspool and it's breeding exponentially.
I mean, look, if they spend as much energy combing the internet for quote unquote, air quotes, white supremacists and other hate groups, right? If they would take even 25% of that energy and went after these cyber bullies from the ages of 8 to 50 or 8 to 85, right? The suicide rate due to cyberbullying would be exponentially less.
Yep.
But they don't want to do that. Well, because like you said, the internet and these social media providers, especially like TikTok, like the Twitter, right? Back in the day, it was my yearbook, right? And even before that, and I'm aging myself here, AOL chat rooms, right, was a safe haven for cyber bullies that would literally say, oh, I can find out all your information. And, that's when ASL was safe. Then it wasn't safe no more. ASL, for those of you that don't remember, age, sex, location. Yep, I'm aging myself here.
I get that too. So
right. So, you can't even do that anymore because with the way with these cyber hackers that know how to get your IP addresses and literally pinpoint you within 100 yards of your house.
Yeah,
it's gone. It's to a point. It's gone too far.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and to the point too that you can make without completely derailing, and I'll stop it here. But it's not like the government. It's not like the people that are above us don't want this, because think about it. If we're not fighting each other and we're copacetic and we're all getting along and we're all, let's put the race thing aside. Let's actually get along. Let's peace, everybody, peace. If we had peace, they can't control us. So they need to stir the pot. They need to shake up that anthill, because if they shake up the anthill, then we're too busy fighting each other to see all the effed up crap that they're doing.
Yep, that's exactly right, and that kind of segues is smoothly into this potential TikTok ban, right? Which personally I don't agree with 100%, because the federal government, that's out of their wheelhouse. That is completely. If people follow, and I jumped on a few of our conservative friends today over on TikTok, they say, the banning of it, this, that, and the third. It's gonna. I say, here's something you got to remember. Show me in the Constitution that the federal government has the right to ban an application, right? Ban an application from the United States private sector. Because here's the thing, right? If they're not trying to argue that point, then everything else, when they were talking about we're being censored, is a moot point.
Agreed.
It's a complete moot point.
My mentality personally about the whole thing, and that's just due to my disdain and personal stuff that have happened more specifically with TikTok versus the applications, is that they rolled that out like they had no safety precautions whatsoever. There are just way too many kinks, and I feel like what needs to be done is that before we roll out social media, we should have had some safeguards in place. And that goes a lot into Mel's bill. It goes in a lot to fixing everything, because if you find and do a lot of digging and do a lot of research, you'll find that these social media companies have more rights than we the people. And if you know anything about the Constitution, you know anything about where we stand We are on the top of the totem pole. We are the kings and queens of this country. And it is not that case. It is quite literally our social media companies are above us. They win. And that's a no-no in my book.
Well, corporations, period. I mean, take social media, they're corporations, period. They're the kingmakers, right?
Yep.
Of this country.
Yep.
And we even, I mean, the most prime example, Disney.
Yep.
Disney is the most prime example of that, right in your face, right? And yet again, right, the hypocrisy we hear out of our fellow Americans is that they shouldn't have taken the land away from Disney, but you're not willing to overturn Citizens United.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you can't do both. Either it's eliminate it all or keep it all. And I'm sorry, the U.S. Constitution and most state constitutions says hell no.
Well, that's the beauty of that Constitution, is that it's black and white. There are no gray areas. Yes or no, it's constitutional or unconstitutional.
Right. But people manipulate language and change and try to imply the meaning of a word instead of the definition of a word, and that's how they get around. And here's the other part: this is how the federal government is getting around bending, right, or bending the Commerce Clause, right? How they say, "Oh, we can ban TikTok." Well, due to the Lopez case, they're able, in the Swift company case back in 1929, they can bend that Commerce Clause just enough before they completely violate it. This is how they're able to legislate guns through the Commerce Clause. But wide interpretation of it.
The problem with this, though, Rod, is that we need to understand, and I apologize to your attorneys in advance on this one, but we the people are, like I said, the kings and queens, according to the Supremacy Clause, according to that beautiful supreme law of the land.
That's correct.
So, that being said, it is our job and it is our duty to hold those specific people, those representatives that are there, our public servants, to hold and handle stuff for us. Our problem is that we're not holding them accountable. We're too lazy. We're too ignorant. We don't know what to do and how to do it. And it's very simple. They have an oath to that Constitution. They violate that oath by trying to twist or turn anything. And there's a clause in 16 American jurisprudence. I don't remember the section offhand, and I will get back to you on that one. But it states specifically that we, the people, are the ones that interpret that ironclad contract, that Constitution. Right.
So, you're pulling from the 12 axioms of law is where that's actually listed. Yes.
Yes. Well, it's also listed as well in the 16 American Jurisprudence, and that is such a beautiful book. And it's kind of funny, too, because if you try and look up 16 American Jurisprudence, they take out a lot of very, very necessary sections if you look it up on.
Yes, they do. Yep.
Yes, you got to go to a law library in order to actually physically get it.
Right.
But as I was moving, is that silence is consent, people. If we can't just sit here and complain about it, we have to actually verbally in an Article 3 court or in a court period say, hey, I have an issue. We need to address it. You're violating my rights. You're violating your oath to the Constitution. You have an oath and bond, and I'm putting you on notice that if you don't knock it off and stop taking advantage of other people's ignorance, then you're going to be held accountable. I'm going to pull your bond, and you're no longer going to be able to hold office anymore.
Correct. Yep. That's exactly correct.
Sorry, I was...
No, you're good, because I've talked about the same thing on here before. A while back, I've talked about, pulling the surety bonds and all that stuff, right? Okay. And, and those are the things that people, this is why, right, the government closest to you is the most important.
Yep.
Right? Okay. And we preach that day in and day out on this show in particular. Like, there's not a moment that goes by we're not talking about something local. Right? How to shore up local. And I keep telling people, you want to save America, forget the clowns in the 68 square mile space up there. You need to talk to those people down in the center of town in that place they call City Hall. You need to get with them and straighten that out there, because nothing else is going to matter. And let's people
like Rod, it's easier too to actually hold them accountable because I mean, unfortunately, shit rolls downhill. So if you go to your state person, the state person will be like, well, it was the guy up at City Hall that did it, and now that person's getting all the crap. So if you take it to city, you have a better chance of getting something done because they have nowhere to throw their fingers at. And on top of it, they're not as corrupt because they don't have as, I mean, that's obviously another segue I'm going to be going on, but they don't have people filling their pockets to have them do the things that they need to do. So
yeah, for the most part, depends on where you are correct. But I say zoning and planning commissions are just as corrupt as the House of Representatives and Congress. But that's another story for another day.
I haven't even made it to Melville yet. I'm sorry.
No, we're good. We're good. So, with the whole, the cyberbullying thing and all that good stuff, we had a mutual friend that passed away. And a lot of it is because of this cyberbullying. And I mean, me personally, I've had about 3 or 4 people pass away, but this one here hit a little bit differently because I had talked to her the day before. Literally had a phone conversation with her the day before.
That breaks my heart, Rod, because I had a phone conversation. Oh, I ignored her, and I ignored her and that's why I have a lot of, like, I feel like I'm making everything right in the world by fighting right now. I ignored her. The reason why I ignored her is because of my own personal situation. You get attacked, you get terrorized on the internet, you seclude yourself, you learn not to trust people, you become paranoid. And she came to me, she was friends with some people that were involved in a lot of the stuff that had hurt me. So immediately I was like, all right, I'll give you some information, but you stay away from me. And I should have been there and I wasn't. And then when I got the phone call, it was like, damn. Like, and that's the part that's eating at me the most. And something that I think that I'm making better by going through this rigmarole of hell with this specific bill. Because I want her legacy to live. I want people to remember her for, the spunky individual. She was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Mouth of a sailor, but goofy and happy. And I wish if I could go back, I would have said so many different things. But I mean, unfortunately, hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah, it is. It is, and not only for her though, right? It's for the other families, right?
Yep.
That have been victimized by cyberbullying, right? And like I said, I mean, just the other week, 11-year-old committed suicide the other day in Missouri. Just the other day, right? Over cyberbullying, over a TikTok video, straight up. And I'm just sitting here like this shit is bananas. Yep.
And I mean, when you think about it, though, some people out there are like, well, why don't you just get off the internet then? If it's that scary. Like, no. That's the same idea as telling a woman that she deserved to be raped because she wore something scandalous. It's the same. Like, because somebody does not have an understanding of boundaries and they want to violate your natural rights to be happy, does not give them the right to keep you off the internet. No, you keep the people that have the boundary problems off the internet.
Right. And even with that too, right? You also, as a user of this utility called the internet, right? Mm-hmm. You also have to know where your threshold is. Like, if you know someone's encroaching, not saying like leave the app or run away, but you know what? You put up that block, you put up that mute. Right. Mm-hmm. You do these things to make sure your boundaries are intact. Now, once you do that, and we've seen it before, right? We've seen it before, Jess, where people will keep coming at you from different accounts and bring other people into it from different accounts. Now, there's the problem in itself. That is what needs to be held accountable.
Exactly.
Because once you've kicked someone out of your house, they have no right to be back in your house.
Absolutely. And there is no protection whatsoever to make it stop. And that's what the whole point of this bill is. With everything that I have researched, I believe fully, wholeheartedly that if we are able, as we the people, to stand up and say that this needs to change, and I will go into detail on it here specifically in a moment, we will be able to circumvent so much hell. And I'm not just talking about the initial primary hell of the people that come on the internet, but hate breeds hate, and hurt people. So, I mean, a normal person, even like myself, I'm not innocent. I've gotten messed with, and I've lashed out, and I've hurt people, and I've had to apologize, Rod, because that's not the person I am, but that's what it breeds on the internet. When you're watching these people anonymously or non-anonymously not be held accountable for their actions and terrorizing you.
Right. That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct.
So then I lash out, and I'm just as bad as that person.
Right. And you're lashing out because again, right. And here's where I kind of differ with a lot of people when it comes to the lashing out. Once your space has been violated, once they have violated that non-aggression axiom and you lash out, that is you like pulling out a gun, like, get out my space. Yep. Right. I treat that as the same thing. Like, like I always say, right. I have my Second Amendment to protect my first, and my first is going to make sure you stay out of my space. And if you overstep my first, you're going to get the second.
Yep.
Right. And the second, right, is all when it comes to social media, it's also my mouth, but I'm a bit harsher with it in that regard. Because I will call you everything but a child of God till you get the point to get out of my face. Right. That's just where I am, and I don't get that hot. I will back away and go over to another corner. But if you follow me over there, no, you're getting all the smoke, the inferno, and the hurricane that comes with it, and you're not going to like the end result when I'm done.
Well, they don't even. The thing is we've got a new generation as well, and we're talking about ASL before, but in generation, like if you run your mouth, we meet up. And we have a nice little chit chat in person.
Yeah, right. Right.
We handle it, and then we move on. We don't do this back and forth emotional crap. And the emotional and mental crap, honestly, is more painful than it actually is on the physical side. Because it's prolonged. You never know when it's going to end. And the mental stuff is what causes these individuals to, like, I've had enough, and they off themselves. For that specific reason. Yep,
they sure do. 135,000%. Like it's, but again, right? We're in this again within this age, and it sucks that folks our age. I might be just a touch older than you, but folks our age. I'm going to pretend you're my age, so you don't have to disclose your age. But. They're on the internet acting the same way as these Gen Zers.
Yeah.
They're all out here on the internet saying, "Oh, I'm gonna call you out." Man, go sit your ass down somewhere.
Got kids watching you do this.
Yeah. Right, that's what I'm saying. They got these 20-year-olds like, oh, look at him. He's calling out a conservative. Oh, he's calling out a liberal. Man, all y'all need to sit the fuck down. All of you. Like, if you gotta waste energy to call someone out because someone so-called gave someone some misleading information, right? I mean, it's okay to like do a video. It's like, hey, you got this wrong. But when you come at them, then you say, look here, dumb shit. Look here, dickwad. Like, man, what you look like the kids when we were in third grade on the playground.
I know it.
Busting on each other.
It's like they forgot. they automatically felt safe when they saw that they were safe on the internet. So.
Oh yeah. They hide behind the screen, but but see, a lot of these people know they're not safe behind the screen because they know people can say IP address. You live in Michigan. You live in Dearborn, Michigan, and you live somewhere near downtown. I will find your ass, Mr. Postman. You know what I'm saying?
Oh. Yeah, and that's even more terrifying than anything, especially for people our age, because we have kids. Most of these Gen Zers don't have kids.
Yeah.
Not only are you messing with me, you're messing with my kids because they live in that same house.
Yep, that's right. That's it right there. And if you come up on my curtilage, it's game over.
Exactly, but please don't make me. Please, please don't make me use that castle doctrine. I will, but I don't want to. I mean, because that's going to traumatize the shit out of my kids, and I don't want them about that life at all.
Hey, look, as my liberty defenders have all adopted, I will meet you. I will meet you with equal, if not excessive, force. If you violate non-aggression, that's it. Like, we ain't got time to play with grown folks, little folks, medium folks, even tall or small folk. We ain't got time for it. You got time for that smoke? Well, guess what? You about to smell something that you ain't never smelt before, or you're gonna smile for the camera as it flashes in your face. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Y'all know I keep it in code. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how we do. Because we are old and tired. Okay, we are old and tired. Yeah. And we ain't got time to tussle around with some mannish ass churn over some social media beef.
Yep.
Right? And here's the other part, and we got to go to break because we got to pay some bills real quick. But the other part of that too is that we have parents not protecting these kids either, and allowing them to be continuously bullied instead of, you know what? That's your child. Take them off of that social media. Take them off. If you know it's diminishing their grades, this, that, and the third, take them off. And this is why I hate, I gave Josh Hawley a 4-minute email, voicemail the other day telling him, like, you better not even think about passing a law to have parents verify their children on social media. I said, I'll be damned, because nope. I said, this is not what we're doing. Huh?
I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not what we're doing. Oh, no. We're not going to violate the parent-child tort immunity. We're not going to violate that. No, we're not doing this. But that's what they're trying to do. States are trying to pass. Oh, your parents got to verify you. No. You can't make a law asking parents to do that. No.
They don't even belong on it. Honest, they don't even belong on it. I think that, and I mean, that goes in with the constitutional. You don't have rights until you're 18 years old. You're still considered technically property for the people that are. So you don't have rights. You are mom and dad's property at that time. So
right. That's exactly correct. We got to pay some bills, Miss Jess. Y'all already know what time it is. You know the famous acronym CWC, cheese, wine, and crackers. Y'all do the thing. When we come back, we're gonna talk about Mel's bill with Miss Jess here. So y'all stay tuned. We'll be back here on Southern Liberty here in 5.
Weather killed 24 people in Mississippi and also wreaked havoc on western Georgia. I'm Ann Carrick, Fox News. So far, there are no reported deaths in Georgia. Fox's Gernal Scott.
Troup County's Emergency Management Director Zachary Steele says the jurisdiction already has a state of emergency declaration in hand from the governor.
That released a number of state troopers as well as DNR rangers that have been deployed to Troup County to assist with that.
With trees on homes and other debris to deal with, another incident got much attention. One of 2 tigers from an animal safari park got loose. It was recaptured. Board of Commissioners Chair Patrick Cruz.
One of the tigers, I understand, did not leave its enclosure, and one did, and it was right outside the enclosure, and they were tranquilized.
There is one additional death outside Mississippi. A grand jury in New York still is deciding on indicting former President Trump on charges of campaign finance violations.
The former president used the word maniacs to describe those heading up investigations against him, while also taking shots at Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is widely considered his top GOP rival. The current frontrunner for the nomination rallied thousands yesterday, calling 2024 the final battle. This rally came exactly 1 week after the former president predicted that he would be arrested in 3 days' time as a result of an investigation launched by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Well, that Tuesday came and went, though. Today, Trump's attorney said that date was only an assumption.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff. Hundreds of overdose deaths in New York State are blamed on a deadly skin-rotting drug called xylazine. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is from New York.
Today, I am asking the DEA, which has just issued the alert, to focus on stopping xylazine, this evil drug, in New York City.
Xylazine is shown to be Narcan resistant and is responsible for at least 40 overdose deaths in central New York this month alone. America's listening to Fox News.
I'm Derek Kaufman.
And I'm Jason Beckerman.
And this is Last Days. It's our brand new podcast about the final days of some of the biggest icons of entertainment, sports, politics, and pop culture.
From the courageous battles to the heartbreaking tragedies, we'll take a look at the final moments of the people who were larger than life and even bigger in death. We'll debunk myths, break down conspiracy theories, and tell the true stories behind the last days of the world's most fascinating people.
New episodes of Last Days are available every week on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts.
Protests erupt in Israel after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fires his defense minister for opposing Netanyahu's controversial plans to overhaul the country's court system.
We have seen such a frustration from protesters across the country that it's not just these civilians in the streets, but also members of the military, reserve pilots, and also Army reservists for the country have said they are unwilling to serve under these conditions. Now that is a major concern for the security echelon in Israel, because ultimately if you don't have reserve fighter pilots and you don't have reserve elite units, there are adversaries of Israel, enemies of the Jewish state, like Iran and Lebanon, that could try to take advantage of this delicate situation.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Jerusalem. Critics say the plan was created to help Netanyahu dodge corruption charges. Gas prices are mostly unchanged over the past 2 weeks, down just 1 cent, with a new national average of $3.52 per gallon. Oil industry analyst Trilby Lundberg.
The main reason that retail gasoline prices look so stable right now is that crude oil prices have been.
The current national average is 85 cents less now than it was this time last year. Hollywood's latest sequel reigns supreme at the box office. Fox's Kevin Uretsky.
Keanu Reeves' latest, John Wick 4, was tops of the box office in a big way on its opening weekend.
I'm going to need a gun.
The opening was the franchise's best to date as the movie earned $73.5 million at the box office, the second best opening this year, trailing only Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which made $106 million in its first week. And speaking of superheroes,
the wizard gave me superpowers.
Shazam! A Fury of the Gods fell sharply in its second week, earning $9.7 million, down nearly 70% from its $30 million opening weekend.
The Fearless and Proud podcast series looks at acts of bravery and strength by women. March is Women's History Month, and in this first season, we look at women who played important roles in the Civil War as soldiers, spies, and nurses. We'll discuss famous examples of women pretending to be men to become soldiers and spies on both sides. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, welcome back, Southern Liberty family, to Chasing Life, Liberty, and Monarchy. I have on my lovely special guest, Miss Jess, and we're talking about cyberbullying, and we're going to get into the solution. As y'all know, you guys know, we talk solutions, right? We got to talk solutions to the problems. We just don't talk about and rant about the problem. We got to solve the problem, right? So that's why Miss Jess is here, because she has the solution. She has the smoking gun to the solution, and she's here to talk about it. But before we get to that point, make sure if you are not subscribed to this show, right after the fact, you don't catch it live, you can catch it in podcast form. We're on everything, iHeartRadio. We're on Pandora, Amazon, Jill Savan. We're actually on the new Russian podcast network. We just got put on Saturday, so we're on that one. We out here. As I say, you said before, we out here. We across the world. You know what I'm saying? Because we doing the things, and it's because of you, Southern Liberty family, that we can do the things that we do, and y'all support. It's definitely showing and shining through. And, you know, the one thing I'd only ask is to share this. Just share it one time. That's all it takes. It's in the internet ether. Somebody's going to pick it up eventually. Someone's going to pick it up eventually and slide through, because, we don't really do any marketing. We do marketing on any of the iHeart radios or XM, Sirius XM. We don't do that marketing scheme. It's just me going to radio station and say, play us, right? That's all I do. Y'all know this. This is all I do. Hey, play us. And he's like, okay, well, let's come on the contract. Okay, that's what we do, right? We don't advertise on social media. We don't do all that because we want people to come to us organically, because we have an organic and a unique message, and it's not to be, obviously, we don't like ramming things down people's throats. So when they find us, they usually fall in love and they hang around just like the rest of you have. So I love y'all. Appreciate y'all for making this show. Only this show, Southern Liberty, and the Experience Today show, what it is. Continue. Thank you for your continued and unwavering support for said show. But anyway, that's enough of me, the pleasantries. We got to get to the solution, Miss Jess. What's the solution to the cyberbullying you got sitting over there?
Well, I wanted to understand where I came up with the solution. I wanted to make sure everyone understood where I've been to find that. So yeah. I wanted to give a quick background. Last summer, my family and I were terrorized, and there were bounties put on our head. My kids' faces all over Twitter, images of my home, where my kids went to school. So you can understand the terrorization. I moved, sold my house, went about my business, and just left the whole social media aspect of life, and obviously had the terrorization. Then fast forward a couple more months, and the same thing's happening to my friend Mel, somebody that I did communicate with. I wasn't very close, as I stated earlier on in the show, just due to the fact that I had a paranoia. I just got terrorized. I had to move my house and uproot my family, or not uproot my family, but uproot my life that I had for the past 8 years. So Mel, during this whole entire time, which we're calling it Mel's bill, it's still in the middle of being drafted. She ended up taking her own life due to the fact that there were terrorization calls to her house. People were calling CPS. People were sending shit like feces to her house. Right. Threats, mockery, messing with her. And she finally took her life. And at that point, I was like, wow, this isn't a game anymore. Like there is way too much of a finality. There is way too much of an ending to somebody's life. Like there's no coming back from that ever. So I was hoping that when Mel had taken her life, that people would take a step back and realize that we're fragile. We're very fragile. And unfortunately, not even 2 days later, the shit was happening again on social media. And that's where it came to fruition with me, where I, for lack of better words, got a fire under my ass, Rod. And I was like, we need to do something, because just sitting around complaining about the bullying and stuff. So I started to look around. I first checked into David's Law, which is a state law in Texas about bullying. I looked around in more other different laws and thought to myself, what could have Mel used? What could have I used to protect me and my family to keep something like that from happening? And unfortunately, especially in my specific situation, the cyber detectives that were doing the investigation basically had said that they did not have the time, money, and resources to subpoena the information that they needed from the social media platforms. Now, mind you, these social media platforms are making money. Lots of money off the traffic of all of these specific instances, these threats, the bullying. People like to watch a train wreck naturally, so people flock. Well, those people that are flocking are making money for these social media companies. So essentially, why would social media companies do anything in their power to protect us if our negative impacts and our expense is making them money, essentially?
That's correct.
Which then, ding, because if you look in the state laws, there are 43 different states out of 50 that have laws against cyberbullying, cyber stalking, doxing, all of the above. So if we have these laws, Rod, why aren't they working? Because A, we can't identify them. B, we don't have the resources. And obviously law enforcement's dealing with other crap that they don't really, if they're going to be wasting their time trying to find a phantom, they're not going to do it versus doing something close to home. So I looked into it and I stumbled across Section 230. Now, I know a lot of people out there right now, it's becoming a hot button right now. It's a hot topic. We've been talking about it with TikTok. Now, as a quick understanding of what Section 230 was, it came in as the Communications Act of 1934, which then enveloped into the Telecommunications Act of 1996. Section 230 is 26 words. More specifically states, no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. So basically stating that if you're a service provider, you will not be held accountable for what the users say and do on your platform. But you are supposed to use a good faith ability to moderate this sort of stuff. Now that I've been long-winded, the words good faith are not identified in this clause whatsoever. That's the problem. So if we've seen recently politically with Section 230, basically it's protected Twitter. It protected Twitter when they did their stuff with the 2020 election. And they used the good faith to say that they were moderating, when to come to find out that they were not moderating in good faith. They were taking advantage of political party and specific opinions and showing one's more than the other. Here's the deal with Mel's Bill, in short. So after stumbling upon every single bill that have come across our Congress floor, and I'm talking all the way up to the 114th Congress, this has been an issue. We have over 250 bills, and I lost count after getting frustrated, all of which are sitting in committee collecting dust, have only been introduced to Congress and nothing further. One that caught my eye was the March 2020 Eliminating Abuse and Rampant Neglect of Interactive Technology Act, which is also known as the Earn It Act. This was introduced in March of 2020. This was Senate Bill 3398 in the 116th Congress. Now, this basically had been brought up to assist in detection and reporting exploitation materials, basically to no longer allow social media to be held accountable. Also in this specific act, there were these key phrases, and this is when a light bulb went in my head. This is when they had offered the ability for backdoor encryption. Now, what backdoor encryption is an open door for our law enforcement, for our people that are supposed to keep us safe, to go into social media, to go into there and say, okay, where is this IP address coming from? What account is this coming from? Because the anonymity is absolutely insane here in this country when you're using social media. So if we have backdoor encryption, we're able to identify people. We're not using the resources to have to subpoena and then wait for the subpoena to come by and then wait for that person to throw away their throwaway thing, or phone. Because do you know that people buy phones specifically to harass people and then throw them out?
Yes, they do. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's obviously another hurdle. So we have these backdoor encryptions that I feel will give us the ability to identify people. So there is no more anonymous ability for us to be able to take advantage of people on the internet. And once we get that moving, then the second phase of Mel's Bill will come out, where we start holding these specific people accountable, whether it's misdemeanor 4 or even a felony, if it's enough that if you're terrorizing people, you'll be held accountable just as you would in the real world, essentially. So what the backdoor encryption will do is identify people. That's the problem. We have the laws in the state. We just don't have the ability to identify people because there are way too many protections for social media with that Section 230. There's too much privacy. But
I would have to push back a little bit, and you you probably have to find a way around this, right? Because we have to remember the exclusionary rule when it comes to good faith in the Fourth Amendment, right? Because the exclusionary rule, based in without getting into the whole context of it, basically says that the good faith exception applies, right, when officers conduct a search or seizure with objectively reasonable reliance. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem you run into is, suppose they use this backdoor encryption, right? Yep. And it's the incorrect person. You have just violated that person's Fourth Amendment. Mm-hmm. Right? And you've also violated the exclusionary rule, which will leave you open up to penalty. So, I mean, I understand the backdoor encryption, but I think teetering on that exclusionary rule, extension of the Fourth in good faith, might push a little bit too much against that.
I have that, but we have to find a way to identify these people specifically. And on top of that, too, one of the other things that I'm noticing that I'm going to get a lot of pushback on is when you open that door for backdoor encryption, you open up a whole load of other stuff. Like
yes, you do.
You have Wayfair. You have all of that stuff that happened with Wayfair. And we know darn well, unfortunately, we have some congressmen that may be identified with that specific instance. So I already know that this is going to be an uphill battle. However, there needs to be a way that if we are going to have social media, that unfortunately we should be able to have it and have harbor a safe environment, not only for us, but for our children and our future generations. And right now that's not what's flying at all.
Right.
And it's because of the anonymity. Right. So while I understand we do have a Fourth Amendment, my hope is that we'll be able to take that specific individual's, let's say, screen name, run the name in the backdoor encryption, and get that person's individual location, cell phone tower, or whatever from their screen name that they utilize, that they used to harass people, they used to post these pictures, they used to go on. I'm sorry.
Right. No, you're good. You're good. I know exactly where you're going. Right. So I think one of the steps we need to take also in this is to declare the internet a public utility. Right. Once we declare the internet a public utility, now you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. The exclusionary rule goes out the window. Right. At that point.
I wasn't that at all, Rod. Like, I was under the impression that it was public. It's just that our government does what it wants, essentially.
Right. You know, it now when we talk about, so I don't want to conflate a couple things here together, because it's several different doctrines that goes into that. Right. Now, the internet itself as a public good is a good thing, right? It's a good thing as a public good, because, you know, it helps us. Like right now we're communicating across voice over IP, right? But now see, when we do something like this, we have no reasonable expectation of privacy because we are public, right? But if we're using the internet for a personal account, like a TikTok account, like a Twitter account, or a Facebook account, right? You can put whatever your name on there you want on there. You can put your real name or a fake name, right? But you should have the reasonable expectation of privacy at that point, because of the internet is not a public utility. It's just like, to put it in a different context, right? Your electricity, your water is a public utility. This is how bill collectors get your address, right? Because you're registered with a public utility. If you make the internet a public utility, then guess what? There's no reasonable expectation of privacy at that point. Now you can literally go in and ping IPs and pull people, but that also opens up another can of worms too.
Yeah. I mean, the reasonable expectation that we have any privacy on the internet, regardless of whatever clause or is eliminated anyway. We know darn well that we're being watched, regardless if it's on a or not. The fact of the matter is that I feel like they sit and hide behind this Section 230, whoever it is, because you also know that while they throw China out there as the TikTok thing, we also know that a lot of TikTok is held here in the United States of America by our own people.
Sure is.
So, I mean, the starting ground and breeding ground for all of this in protection and where they hide behind is Section 230. And while I do believe in our First Amendment right, and I wholeheartedly want that first and foremost, I do not feel that Section 230 is protecting us, we the people, when we, like I said at the beginning of this interview, we are the kings and queens of this country. They are taking advantage of our ignorance by saying that, oh, well, if we don't follow Section 230, then you're not going to have your First Amendment rights. No, that's not the case.
Right. It's the other way around, right? It's supposed to be the other way around. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying get rid of Section 230, and I want everybody listening to know that that is not the case. But what we have here is a section, a law that was developed in 1996 when we had Yahoo Messenger. And we had something simple like that. That was way before
AOL, and
Yes, that was way before we had the expansion. No one anticipated that social media, Facebook, everything would take off the way that it did. But now it has. And now we need to readdress it and handle it as in present day. It does not, everything that is in there developed is in 1996 terms. We're in 2023. We need to address the language now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And the thing is that people that don't necessarily understand kind of where we are in this, right? Is this has to be a federal statute because the internet affects interstate commerce, right? So I'd be wholeheartedly Ninth Amendment, right? But considering how the internet is interwoven into not only government, but all modes of commerce, right? The federal government has to be involved with this one to make sure these things, these things like this, like Mel's Bill happens. It has to.
That's why Mel's Bill is federal, and also because Section 230, the clause that wrote the internet or whatever quote unquote it is federal. It's U.S. Code Section for Title 47, Section 230. I can't go to my state representative and tell him to go fix United States Code 47.
Right.
That's just me and laugh.
Right. That's exactly right. So what in Mel's Bill specifically, what is without giving away the whole kit and caboodle, what as far as what's being drafted, what are the type of penalties or inclusions are in Mel's Bill?
We're honestly in the beginning stages of legislative sessions right now, and I basically have been the one to spit off, which is why I was so excited. I told you about this when they started going off on TikTok last week about the moderation. If you go listen to the guy from Ohio, he says every single thing that we're talking about right now. He talks about the good faith and them taking advantage of the words good faith. Like that's basically just trust me until you can't trust me. That's basically what good faith means. Everything that they say in there. So what we're managing is a reorganization of language. And I'm not looking to completely redevelop Section 230. What I'm looking to do is put a clause in there specifically for backdoor encryption or for some possible way to allow our law enforcement a way in to identify people, not use as many resources, and help people specifically like Mel to make it stop then instead of waiting for her to take her life. So, like I said, unfortunately, I mean, she passed away at the end of October. I finally figured this out around Christmas time, the whole Section 230 with all of my investigation. And then we had the Congress hit in. So basically, right now where we're standing is government dragging their feet, because you know that the government moves slow, and I'm just waiting on the next piece of movement in legislative session to talk.
Right. So I would even I would even potentially write a bill, right? Because I mean, cyberbullying, quote unquote, is a crime on a lot of state levels. Mm-hmm. But with it being interstate in a lot of cases, they're not in the same state, you start running into those roadblocks, right? Even if your law enforcement got subpoenaed the records, they would have to go to the other state where the person is, serve a warrant, extradite the person. And let me tell you guys, so the extradition is not easy. It's not an easy, like, we pick them up and bring them back. I mean, the Attorney General has to send actual paperwork to the governor. The governor has to pass it to the Attorney General. The Attorney General has to approve it. And they can't stop the extradition, but they can investigate the validity of the extradition warrant for up to 30 days.
Well,
right?
Even on that, too, that you have to have the full burden of proof and the laws in the criminal's side.
Right.
So you have a lot of hurdles that you have to deal with. And then further, if you're going to do it interstate, a lot of people don't realize that technically we're supposed to be going to the FBI and criminal cyber detective when you're dealing with this sort of stuff. Nobody knows to contact the FBI. I didn't realize it until I went through all of this.
IC3.gov.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I realize that they are already overwhelmed, and that's only on what people know to contact them. Me, I didn't realize that I was supposed to contact the FBI.
But here's the thing, though, right? The only thing, and this is going to shock everybody, right? The only thing the FBI can do is refer for criminal charges in the state, because there's nothing in Title 18 for cyberbullying.
Well, then you just opened up another can of worms, Rob.
There you go.
I won't quit.
But you know, so there, I mean, there's a lot of things they're going to throw at you, Jess. They're going to throw a whole bunch of things at you, right? Mm-hmm. And just getting Title 18 amended to include cyberbullying under the bullying clause, under a simple assault clause, a simple assault statute in Title 18. Is going to be monumental, because if they can do that, right, then the FBI has the full weight, right, of the Constitution to go pick somebody up.
Oh, yeah. And then if we even add that whole backdoor encryption, then, I mean, even though I absolutely love the FBI and I don't feel like they're corrupt at all, I feel like they have the full ability to have that backdoor encryption and use it for appropriate reasons, so that way people are held accountable. But here we are. Okay.
Yeah, FBI, y'all great. Rank and file is great people. Rank and file is great people. They really are. The rank and file is. The upper management, I reserve comment.
The rules. So, but yeah, I mean, anything to do something. And even on this, and anybody listening, this is not a competition for me to get notoriety on this at all. And if you see anything or hear anything regarding what I've said, take it and run with it. I am giving you my full permission. I am not, I have a lot of stuff on my plate. I was just talking to Rod about this. I want someone else to assist. I want this to be something that can cause our people, all of us in American people, because this whole bullying and harassment thing is not a party issue. The left are getting attacked just as much as the right are. Yeah. We need to come together and say, all right, enough, because we're all hurting. We're all scratching and clawing at each other. For what? For what?
Yeah.
So come together. If you get any information from me at all from here, take it and run with it, please. I will applaud you if you make it to Congress. I will be happy that it made it, because somebody's making a difference, and I can't do it alone. Period.
That's right, and that's the bigger problem. That brings us back to, back to defending liberty, right? Because there is a small clan of us a disconnected clan of us that are defending individually. The problem that we have is we have a lot of people that are still flying the flag of conservative, still flying the flag of liberal, still flying the flag of progressive, and forgetting about liberty because they want to take control of the state to do what they want to do with it. And to impose their morality upon the people. And then it's going to switch every 2 years. We're going to impose our morality on you. And everybody's like in a flip-flop. They're like, you know what? This is why government has always been corrupt.
Yep.
We're like, leave us alone. Like, we don't want what you're virtue signaling today. I don't have enough milk to digest that. I didn't wake up for this, right? So leave us alone to our vices. You just make sure people don't invade us. They don't bomb us, right? And make sure we get the materials into this country that we need. That's it. That's all. Yep. That's your job. That's all. That's simple. But people can't make it that simple because they have, well, this is right and this ain't right. And this, that, and the third. And it's like, it's like, it seems like nowadays everybody's a hypocrite.
I mean, you're right.
Right? It's just like everybody's a hypocrite. Hey, save the children. Oh, well, Jess is doing Melville. No, we don't want to do that. I'm like, wait a minute. What? Wait. You just said out the other side of your neck, save children, but you want to sit here and say, oh, no. We don't want to save the children because it's Jess. Yeah. Man, get the F out of here. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, but people want to harbor around, like, you know, the big names, right? They want to harbor around the Bidens and the Curry Bushes and the Trumps and the Chip Roys, and that's our guy. And it's like, but you are like you said, we are the kings and queens of this country. And you just giving away your power to an individual that's elected, which is not supposed to be, we're supposed to be holding them accountable. Yeah. Right? You giving your power away, say just do what you want with it, and then meanwhile they're taking a cactus with no lube or Vaseline and shoving it up your ass.
Jeez, no, you're right though. Like somewhere down the road, we somehow thought that it was supposed to be appropriate for our elected officials to have authority over us. No. But
you know, some people just, especially this newer group of politicos or political pundits, these Gen Zers, and there's this whole group like the Victoria Hammets and the Harrys of TikTok, and I'm sitting here like, do you even hear yourself right now? Yeah, they say, oh, we gotta since slavery, black people did this, but I'm like, bruh, you sitting here on TikTok like, yes, I'm massa, right? At the same side of your neck, you're saying yes, I'm massa. Because you're allowing the government to dictate to you, even have you at the White House to pay you to push COVID propaganda. Huh?
Yeah, I agree. But you can't really blame them though, because they've had a wholehearted control of our education system, and it's our Gen Z that don't understand the Pledge of Allegiance and what it means. They don't understand the Star Spangled Banner and what happened during that specific battle. They don't understand what Article 1 is and what that entails, or Article 2, Article 3. Look, they don't understand what our Bill of Rights are and what that stands for and how important that document is, and it's not a formality.
You're right. You're exactly right. Because, I mean, look, that Biden nominee the other day couldn't tell Senator Kennedy what Article 5 was of the Constitution. Oh, she couldn't describe what proposivism was. I'm sitting here like, how do you not?
Do you know what you took an oath to?
I'm like proposivism. Okay, I get it, because it's an obscure doctrine, and I get it, right? But you're gonna sit here and tell me you don't know what Article 5 is or Article 2? Yeah. You're a judge? What?
Well, they think that it's a formality until, somebody decides to pull their surety bonds, and then they'll realize how much they should have been studying that Constitution and what was in there before they started violating it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm going to keep it real with you. And I've said this since January 7th, 2021, right? I've said it since that day. Every single individual, judge, FBI, even what I will go as far as the president of the United States should be locked up for the violation of not only the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, and the Eighth Amendment. They should be locked up automatically. Yeah. Because these people are barely seeing trials after all this time, right?
Well, straight out, that's what it is. Straight out treason. So
well, I would say sedition. Sedition.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we have people that still are clapping. They're getting charged. And I'm like, bruh, I said, do you understand what just happened right in front of your face? They didn't get due process. They didn't get their right to a speedy trial. If you think 2 years is a speedy trial, I hate to be in the hamster wheel you're running in right now. Yep. Right? And cruel and unusual punishment, I'm sorry, being locked up without a speedy trial, without the potentiality for bail for 2 years is not cruel and unusual punishment. I'm sorry, you didn't read your Constitution.
Yeah, but they also have a clause in the Constitution where you have to pay that person for every single day that you locked them up and confined them. And as long as he has a decent constitutional lawyer, he's going to be a millionaire at this point.
Yep. That's exactly it. And I was telling people before, I was like, you're sitting here cheering this on. They're terrorists. I said, I'm going to say it like this. When it's you, I don't want to hear a word out your mouth. When it's people from quote unquote, since y'all want to make politics a team sport, it's going to be, I'm going to laugh at your team because you allowed this to happen. I'm not going to allow it to happen to me because that Constitution is my contract with the government. Not your, it's my contract with the government. This is what you can and cannot do to me.
Yeah, but one thing that you got to understand though, Rod, and let me play devil's advocate for you, is that when they're in that position and that they're in that seat, that's when it's our job, the people who have heads, to come forward and say, hey, remember me? I was the one on January 6th. Now you know how I felt. Now can we come together and knock this shit off? Now that you know what it feels like, it's the same thing with the COVID-19 stuff. People are coming forward and they're realizing, duh, we fucked up. And this is time, instead of victimizing, or not, I cannot think of the word right now, but instead of going after them and attacking them, we're not going to get anywhere with that. We're not. Even though it feels good to be like, ha, told you so. Our best bet in order to do exactly what our government and higher ups don't want us to do is to come together and say, hey, we bleed the same. Let's fix this.
Yep.
Now we see it. Now we're on the same team. Let's not do this again.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But they this government has the people fearful, right? They have the people fearful of them. Right. Yeah. Have them fearful. Look, if you don't do this, right? I mean, people have to understand, right? And people, especially like these Antifa thugs, right? They say they fight fascism, but they're not talking about the men that'll come to your front door, right? Watch this. They're not talking about the men that'll come to your front door with fully loaded automatic pistols, right? That will come tote you off, right? Because they're going to come tote you off to a court that you have to prove your innocence. They don't have to prove your guilt. You have to prove your innocence in a tax court, right? Fully automatic weapons. They will shoot you dead over $20.
Yeah.
I mean, are we not talking about the same fascist government that you're railing against? Oh, no, you want to rail against fascist police. Oh, but the fascist government still have police thugs that will come to your door, right, with guns over $20 and shoot you dead for $20.
Paying them off. I mean, have we checked George Soros's tax?
Oh, man, come on now. Come on now.
I mean, target on ourselves right now. I'm sorry.
No, we're putting out too many good expectations. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Right, but that's the thing, right? We can come again. We can come together on this aspect of liberty. You can be all the Antifa thug you want, right? You can be all the BLM thug you want. You can be all the MAGA you want. You can be all these different things, whatever a tag you want. But if you don't have the liberty to be that, you are a slave to the state.
Yes. Amen.
That's it.
Amen.
Miss Jess, any last words before we shut this thing down?
I think I'll just end with the fact that the last one of the things that I said that I feel is necessary is you cannot control a group of people if we're all getting along. So, I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of hatred, a lot of crap we've been through since COVID-19, moving forward, Black Lives Matter and everything. If anything, push it aside because nothing's going to be productive. If they're coming out with their hand or they're saying, hey, you know what, we effed up, then let's come together. Let's figure out a way to come together because that's how we're going to win. We're going to win against our higher ups, our government. And that's who the bad guys are. If we stop fighting and we look at what's actually going on, we'll realize that the solution is not fighting each other, but fighting the people that are taking advantages of us and needing us to fight in order to do so, if that makes any sense.
Yep, that's exactly right. And I'll end with this, right? The same thing I said I'm going to January 8th. The same thing I said on January 8th, 9th, and 10th, and even up to this day, this second, right now. I don't care if it would have been BLM or Antifa running up in that building. None of them should be arrested for walking into that building we pay our taxes for. See, when you are a member of Congress, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. And guess what? The other team proved it. They will come at you anywhere, anytime, any place. Now let's equally apply the principle. Right? Let's equally apply that. They don't want to equally apply it because, again, right, they have an agenda to push. Right? They have an agenda to push. So I don't care. BLM and Antifa, they could have been up in that building and no MAGA folk. I'll be like, you know what? That's your shit too. You pay taxes to build that building. Have at it.
But isn't that what happened 2 years before that?
Yeah, it did. At the White House, yeah. Over at the White House, yeah. And Trump had to be whisked away into the bunker, yeah. And then here's the sorry part about that whole thing, right? That whole January 6th thing, right? And I just saw the clip of McCarthy saying it. I didn't know. Like I knew. See, now that it's public, now I can say it. Anytime there's an emergency at the Capitol or any kind of threat of bomb or whatever, congressional members and their staff are moved to Fort McNair through the underground tunnel under the Potomac. They are moved underneath the Potomac. There is literally a 2-lane road that goes from D.C. to Fort McNair. That in the Fort McNair is where the military district of Washington is. That's where the army conglomerate is, right? For Washington D.C., right? There's a 2-lane road that goes underneath the Potomac that goes there. Okay. Now, with that being said, Nancy Pelosi's daughter was filming them inside of Fort McNair. Nancy Pelosi was filming all the look where we are. What the fuck are you doing? But we're not going to talk about what this reporter was trying to deflect with January 6th. And I was like, she's putting that video out there, and if that video would have went out when, you know what I mean, would have went out when she was there, that made all of them a sitting duck.
Yep.
If someone wanted to do something stupid, people take the security of the United States for granted. We have enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yep.
But you're not going to talk about this former Speaker of the House's daughter putting out the fact they was at Fort McNair on a fucking camera. Now they got to find a new location because that location is definitely not safe.
Yeah.
Even with the headquarters of the military district of Washington, there, it's not a safe place, right? Those of you that have seen the show with Kiefer Sutherland, what is it called? When he becomes the president after a nuclear bomb, after a bomb blew up. What is that called?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but That kind of it's that kind of scenario, right? Like we don't want those kind of things to potentially happen when they're all together like that. But anyway, I digress. Miss Jess, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
For coming through like kung fu. Stay on the line here for a couple minutes after the fact. I wanna thank and love on my Liberty Defenders a minute. I appreciate you for coming on. Great discussion with Miss Jess and all that stuff. If you want more information about Millsville, you know how to get a hold of me. I can get a hold of her. I can get the information you want pulled for her, et cetera, et cetera. With that, make sure you guys come back tomorrow night, 9:30, for What the Hill. There's some sinister things going on up at Capitol Hill that y'all need to know about. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern. You know how to get here. Until next time, life, love, liberty, and happiness. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Southern Liberty Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media. Subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.bpmg.us or leave a rating and review on iTunes. To catch all the latest from Roderick, you can follow him on social media at manofjustice007. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.